I just love you guys, and I appreciate you being here for us, and I appreciate you doing the things that you're doing, and I appreciate you building this. Please like this episode as well as every other episode you do enjoy going on right now that I'm very excited about. And I see Doge, and I see the realignment of the educational system coming together for a real unique opportunity that we haven't had in a long time. And that's exciting more and more each day. It all comes back to coming back to yourself, taking your you have three brains, right? You have the brain of the head, you have the brain of the heart, and you have the brain of the gut, gut instinct, right? I would love to really be able to get into some comfortable situations where we can start feeding back into the community that we haven't had in a long time. If we take the right approach, we have the ability to really dramatically affect not only the children growth. We could start turning revenues and rolling them into, for instance, here in the small town, seeing what kind of effects we have. We have coming up very shortly, as much as we should. And I think this is probably the strongest because it has emotion as well. And then those two signal to the brain to send out the chemicals that do the work that needs to be done according to whatever I have already talked a little bit about it with Emma on Emma Lynn and Grandpa Rodd. Hey folks, how you doing? This is Rodd Duff here from Insights and Straight Talk. Another glorious day. It's actually I was actually down at the DMV. It's called something now, tag store or something out here, but I was changing over my license from Illinois to Oklahoma. So it was a really busy day. There was like 3 people in there. And so I took care of a little of that this morning, and I'm really excited about a very interesting and different show today. And different, what I mean by that is we have a very special guest. Those of you who've been on this journey for any time at all know the name Ronalda. And so her and I have, as you know, have been digital friends for forever, for a long time. And wow. We already have 50 people on. Looks like this is going to be an exciting show today. You guys read what we're talking about. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the Mangum City Library. They host us here and have been awesome partners. Just really doing a lot for the connection also of the residents here, the citizens here, and the show. They regularly are asked questions because there's a vibe going on. There's an energy. There's an electricity. Before I bring Ronalda on, as you know, she's got an amazing backstory. There's 112 people on right now, so I'm not going to drag this out too long. You guys are coming in hot, which I love. I was telling Ronalda, and I were talking backstage about this, that it's amazing how absolutely fascinating you, the audience, are. You make the show. You guys are bringing in questions and intelligence, and you can see the thirst for the knowledge, the hunger for the knowledge, and that just excites me. I was talking earlier, my friend Joe Heap out in California from Patriot Productions. He's actually at a very large Jewish event off the 405, live streaming that event out today. He was talking to me as he was rolling in, but he and I were talking about just the people that this community is fascinating to me, because you guys are building the show. Everybody that comes on really talks about how much the conversation went. They love the energy of the show, and they love and a lot, and that energy is fueled by the comments that you all make and the questions that you bring in. I do a research on the people that are coming on the show, and you guys know things about the subject matter and or what's going on than I do. Today, we're going to be speaking with Ronalda, and she's usually in the right side, the comment section. In some shows, extremely active, and in some shows, she sits back and just enjoys while she does her thing. I mean, she's traveled all over the world. Amazing backstory. You're going to hear her journey. We've got 221 people coming on now. So I am, without any further delay, I'm honored to bring on certainly the top production person in this show. Let me introduce you to Ronalda Arends. Now, if you'll see here, she has a video, or she has her a typical non-face thing, and we're just going to work through that today. And she has a couple dogs as well, and they're adorable. And so Ronalda, tell us your backstory. Introduce yourself. Everybody knows they're here because you've got a fascinating background with your digital creator. You're working with gang members out in Denver for what, 26 years, something like that? Criminals?
Yep. Well, first of all, I'm an open book. So any questions you can ask me, because I learn by doing, not by hearing. I learn by doing whatever I needed to do. I left home at 15, and that was in the bio. I left home not because I was pregnant, but because I thought I knew more than my parents did, which I was wrong. You're going to find out a lot of times, you're going to find, hey, I think I know better, but nope, you don't know better until after you've done it. But I think the biggest thing is I landed in Colorado and went off grid when I was 50, and I lived off grid for 15 years, so that kind of gives you the timeline of how old I am. But anyways, and I can tell you anything from religion to any type of sports, because I work for Denver Parks and Recreation. And basically, I've tried everything and done everything and been everywhere. And a lot of it's because of my dad, and I believe your dad was a Marine also.
Absolutely.
And
with being, it's fascinating. Let's just hover at this for a second. It's fascinating how that lifestyle really opens you up to. I mean, your dad in particular. I love the one line here. I don't have it in front of me. Never say you can't, just figure out how. Kind of what you're talking about now. And there's so much of the show obviously is all about the middle class. And on those topics, we're going to get into religion and scripture, hidden truths, and real recovery. So with you, I'd like to start and tell us a little background of what it's like to live off grid, because that's something I very much want to do, as you know, and it's something you're working to get back onto off grid. Let's start there, and I do want to get into some of the spirituality aspect. I really want to dive into that, because yesterday you were in the audience, and you and I were listening, and we were having a direction into some real good conversation about comparison of things. And that's where I really want to drive this show, this platform, is to get into Bill Maher kind of conversations where you're speaking from other points of view and working to find the commonality in all of that. We already got questions coming in here. So let's start. Why don't you step back into you've traveled all over the world. You've done a lot of different things that you do or don't want to get into with for different reasons and different just different reasons. But let's start off grid, and then I want to really kind of get. I want to talk about the different subjects that we talk about, like AI. We did micro farming earlier. You were really going back and forth with Brandon in questions, and that was a really fascinating show. This coming Tuesday, we're going to talk about AI, blockchain, and automation, the differences of those categories, let's say, in the coming world. And then, of course, on Monday, we do the regular school regeneration program, which you told me about in Denver. You went through some programs there. So there's a lot of crossover in things we can talk about, right? So let's start with off grid. I like that's it. I want to hear more about it because I know enough to not know enough.
Well, here's the thing. My first year, I wasn't ready for it, but I thought I was, and I thought I was going to freeze to death because in the mountains of Colorado, it got down below 30, and I was sitting there going, I think I made I made the wrong decision here, and ended up in the hospital because I thought I was frostbite, but I wasn't. I was just overreacting. Every year got easier, but the biggest thing about being off grid where I was, there was no towers. So if I wanted to talk to someone, I would end up going, I had to climb a mountain behind the house and get up to where there was a signal. And that's how I communicated. No phone signal, no nothing for the first 8 years. And then in the last 5 years, there was a tower that came up, still no signal. So in town, it was over an hour away. So if you wanted to go to town, you got to plan for it. If you want to get groceries were something else. You had to plan on a trip once a month to a 2-hour, 2.5-hour drive to town to get groceries. And if you didn't have it, you had to learn how to do without. And I learned to do without. So, but when you're out there and you have no distractions, you learn how to cook, you learn your religions, you learn how to do crafts. But I already had that in my background. I can sew, knit, crochet. Right now I'm painting ceramics. So we can get into whatever you want to get into. The biggest thing is being able to share it with other people, because being off grid is something else, especially when your closest neighbor was over a half an hour away and no one came down my road. And I still have the place. So I will be going back. I've been trying to go back for a while, but as you know, I'm working with stem cells on my knees because I'm a runner. And since I'm a runner, you get problems with your knees. So I'm getting back there. I'm hoping to be back there in December. Nice. So that's where I'm at now.
Speaking of December, I want to do a couple things. Well, now that you brought up the stem cell thing, I didn't even think about that. You know, we have a show on Wednesday with Dr. Estrada, and he specializes in that. And we did a preview, and that's one of the things in our preview area here. But before we get into any sidetrack here, let's put a visual picture of your place in Colorado, because it's not like you have a house and a nice backyard kind of thing. I mean, I've seen pictures and so forth. First, you talked about when it's winter, or when you once a month you go to town. It's a 2.5-hour drive back and forth kind of thing, and you do it once a month, or you do without if you don't get the right stuff. And amplified on that is when the snow comes. It snows in Colorado. When the snow comes, I got to imagine there's a lot of things that it's really hard to even get out of the property. So first, describe your property. And you had to climb a mountain behind your house. But I've seen cows on there. I've seen you do ATV stuff, for back in the day through a river. Paint a picture of what this property that you have in Colorado looks like. When you're living off grid, you're living in a big open area, right?
Yeah, like I said, my closest neighbor is 30 minutes away. I mean, that's driving. And I was always on my ATV, and there is a seasonal spring, not spring, seasonal creek, and I share water with the ranchers. They're able to, in Colorado, if you own your property, you don't own the water or the mineral rights. So somebody else owns it. Even if it's on your property, they don't own it. I mean, you don't own it. So what you do for me is that we have cows, ranchers that come in and bring their cows, and they and you watch their cows for your rights to be have the water, but that's still not legal. I might get myself in trouble, but that's one of the reasons that I don't go live or talk to people about it, because there's a lot of things. Colorado is a red or a blue state. I hope it's turning red, but it's a blue state right now, and there's a lot of things that you can't do, and you can't. And a lot of people around me out there are doing it. They're living off grid. Off grid is not something you can just go and do. There's a lot of regulations with the city or the state that you have to follow, but apparently not everybody does it, and there's a lot more than me that are not doing it.
Interesting. So when what you're saying there, going back to regulations and a little bit of politics, but just alongside of it, what you're saying there is, if you decide to go off grid, so if you decide to get some property out there, say you live in Denver, or you live in a different state, I assume it's the same thing. You get some property, and then you, if you, I mean, how do they know you're off grid?
Oh, they fly over. They'll fly over with a plane. Um, Now, Colorado, when people come out to see my property, the first thing they say is, "Oh, it's so remote. You can grow pot." I'm going, "Nope, not going to grow no pot." But we had neighbors that had grown pot, and they flew over. And if you're not within, like, if let's say you have 100 plants, which I never had, but they had, and they had 101, they can come and get you for having more than one plant over. There's a whole bunch of things about regulation, but they can get you by flying over. But no, biggest
So
thing
do
is
so do they not
regulations.
want you? So do they not? Oh, okay, so it's not that they don't want you to necessarily go off grid. They just they there's a patrol there that you're not really living your own life. You still have the government hovering over you, right?
Right. And I mean, like, they send out a thing once a year, want to know what's on your property. Well, none of us put anything on our property because they want to know how many chickens you have, how many of this, how many, I mean, goats and whatever. And I was more worried that they wanted me to chip everything, and I wasn't going to do that. And
Chip.
if you know
You
what
mean
I'm, yeah, they want to
chip it
chip
up
your
like chip?
chickens.
I do
They
not
want to,
know what that term is. I don't know what that term is.
oh,
What's chip a chicken? I should know. My
well,
son's a chicken farmer, but I don't know what.
yeah, no, that means that they want to count how many chickens you have. Um,
Oh, okay.
okay, they want to know. I mean, the other thing that bothered me
Crazy.
a lot was they were talking, man, this is in Colorado. They're talking about taxing if you have a windmill, how big your windmill is. And I mean, there's all kinds of crazy things, but people do live out there, and they do live off grid, and they do live happily. I mean, I was very happy. I just needed to
What
come back
brings
to the
the
world.
happiness? What brings the? Well, I think you're getting into it now. What is fulfilling? And I imagine you've got to be comfortable in your own skin, obviously, and love to be by yourself. And there's not a lot of people that actually they need people, right? But what bring is it just being back to nature? You know, that whole grounding and being around nature, is that the vibe that you're getting from being off grid, or is it also just that it's simpler, you're prouder because you're doing your own thing? What is
I think it's
the
because
elevator pitch?
I can do my own thing. I can, if I want to make Chinese food today, I make Chinese food. It may not be the Chinese food you think is Chinese food, But it's Chinese food, or I can make Mexican food. But I also used to teach cooking too. But I think the freedom of being able to say, hey, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to go for a run, or I'm going to go and I'm going to paint ceramics today. And my biggest thing is I was the vice president of Art Guild for quilting. So I quilt quilts and take it to town and give it to the kids that are in town, in our town. Oh boy, two lights. I mean, you drive through it, and you didn't know you went through it. But
That sounds familiar.
Walsenburg is not as big as your town. I noticed your town is a little bit bigger, but there's some parts that are smaller. But I think the freedom of being, I mean, like you start walking down a dirt road. Oh, I should tell you, I'm 8 miles off of a county road. I don't know if that makes any difference to you, but some people don't know what a county road is. But a county road means
I do.
it's dirt. It's still dirt. Even county road is a dirt, but
Yeah,
mine's a Jeep trail. And you have to have a Jeep or four-wheel drive, something to get in there, because otherwise you're not getting in there. And
exactly. I mean, you're in a situation where you like you said, the first year was really tough. You thought you were going to freeze to death, but each year you learn more and learn more, and that's got to be very fulfilling to be able to learn new talents and skill sets. And by the way, we have 320 people on now. So
okay,
this is a very interesting subject, and I really want to stay and try and dive into this picture because I would love to be more educated. What are some of the pitfalls that are about? One of them you just said, and that goes back to when I said, man, in wintertime, there's probably weeks you can't even get out of
oh,
right
I've been
around your area, right?
every year you have to watch you have to watch the weather, and you have to know a couple of days ahead of time. Hey, do I go chance it? Do I go to town and I'm okay, or do I not go to town and then I'm snowed in for 3 weeks? I've been snowed in as long as 33 days, which
Wow.
is 33 days. And you make sure you have everything. And after a while, like I told you, your son and you guys, is that you need to know how to can, you need to know how to freeze dry, you need to know how to store your food, because I could make a complete meal even on the 30th day. But that was 10 years later. I was able to start, being able to. I mean, what if you wanted a gourmet meal? I could do it on the 30th day because I had enough food. It's just the little things that you don't think about. And oh, that's the other thing. High altitude. I was at 8,100
Oh,
feet. Okay. And you cannot store milk. Um, you have to have goat milk. You cannot have regular milk because within days, because of the altitude, it will spoil. And I think the other
because
thing
of the
is,
altitude, because of
oh,
so
yeah,
what the enzymes break down or something at different levels, I guess I would assume is
I,
what
d-
why that happens.
I never really cared why it happened. I just knew it happened. But the other
Mhm.
thing is you have to adjust your cooking. You have to add more flour or more baking soda or more baking powder, whatever you need to add more to your food to make it work, because at that altitude, food doesn't work. Um, and it's just different. You have to um, adjust things. But by the time I left, and I'm like I said, I can still go back. You make your own oil, and that's now it's called tallow. We just
Hey,
called
wait,
it
wait, wait.
oil then,
How do
but
you how do
you
you
make
make
your
that?
own oil and you live very natural. You don't there's n- you live with less, but you have more. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Makes perfect sense. How do you make that oil? Is that what you were explaining to me the other day when you were are you talking about where you were cutting off the certain parts of a meal, certain parts of the fat,
Uh,
and you were breaking
Yeah,
that down? Explain how that goes? Because that was interesting to me, especially we're good, getting into cooking. So get into some cooking here. And by the way, we've already got a ton of questions. I'm gonna dive off because they're
Okay.
talking about ahead of us. So some
Okay.
of the different inspirations you have. Get into some of the cooking now, and because you don't, you're the opposite of me in that, and I see why, and I love to cook, but I do a lot of what everybody else does. They go to the store and buy their pasta, or they buy their meal, or they buy a steak that's already wrapped up and whatever, right? You everything you make is from the base. Like you make your own
Right.
ketchup, you make your own mustard,
Yep.
you make
Yep.
grease your taco. So talk about some of that, because you don't have a hard stop, do you?
No, I
Or do
don't.
you? Okay.
No, I don't.
Um,
I don't have a hard
so
stop.
I'm assuming this is going to go well into an hour. But continue talking about what you're talking about in the cooking arena. I'm going to go through and look at some of these questions that are
Okay.
coming up and organize them for us.
Okay. I'm in North Carolina, and I'm going to tell you right now, being in North Carolina, food is not the same as Colorado. Colorado, I believe it's more Mexican based. So when I'm making chicharrones, I will take the chicharrones and fry them down, and it's pork belly or pork fat. And what you do is the chicharrones are what you eat on a snack. And I'm a carnivore now. And I looked into that, and I'm healthier now. I feel everything's much better being a carnivore. But the biggest thing is frying it down till you have the oil. And then you take that oil and you render it back to as clear as you can. It's a long process. I would have to go into it, but anyways, yeah. When you were talking about you go to the store and buy something in a box or a can,
Right.
nope, no box, no can, no nothing to do with. If I can't grow it or feed it, I don't eat it because there's too many chemicals in the world right now that it's just not a healthy way of living. And I believe healthy is what I look at. And that's why I lived out there. It was healthy, and I think like I said, I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, it's and you bring up that point, and I'm glad you said it because it's extremely timely. People are finally, I believe, starting to wake up to this because we have an administration in, and no matter what you feel about Kennedy and some of his quirks, um, the fact is that basically big ag and big pharma, those two kind of feed us back and forth to each other. Big ag pumps us with crap food, including dyes that are illegal in other parts of the world. I mean, the red dye whole thing conversation going on, although that kind of dropped off the news cycle for some reason. But the point is, more and more and more people are doing that, which is funny because I remember Michelle Obama during, I think, Barack's first, or I think it was the second term. She started, the
A
first
garden.
ladies are,
Yeah.
started that garden and trying to get people to grow their own food as like just say no to drugs. One of those programs that kind of, and it died out really quick. And I think it didn't really go well for her as far as marketing the Obama thing. But now, in several years later, I'm hearing this a lot. The micro farming that you were just mentioning with my son and I, we were talking about.
Right.
Those things are really. So I think everybody's kind of moving you're ahead of the curve, obviously, way ahead of the curve. But I think this is more and more the case because people are realizing how bad their lives, how much worse their lives are because of the programs that the government or big business as well work hand in hand to basically just churn us through the mill and then take a pill to fix it or extend, your life a lot longer. But you talked about it. I would rather have quality. If I had to choose and lose some quantity because I had more quality in life, I would choose quality over quantity anytime. You hate to see that, being 80 and just decrepit, and living the last 20 years of their life. Now, the ones that have both quality and quantity, that's what you're describing right now, right, Ronalda?
Right. But I have some things to tell you that's funny is that when you go to the store, and we go to big box stores when you're in Colorado, which is, like I said, is 2.5 hours away,
I
you
know that.
still, I can't get out of the habit of going to the store here. And people look at me, why do you have big boxes of everything? And I say, it's hard not to shop for a whole month. Here, people shop every day.
Mm, mm.
And I shop once a month. And that's all I need to do. And I don't need to go back to the store. And I think there's one more, but that's to me is funny because people look at me
That
like,
is.
why you got so much? But I think the biggest thing for me to get used to here, and that was coming out of being off grid, was getting used to electricity. I cooked on a wood stove. I cooked on a gas stove. And here there's fire. What do you call it? It's on the wall. They're fire. They check for the fire. What is that? Fire alarms.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
Um,
beep, you mean? If there's smoke, it beeps? Is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
those
fire
things.
alarms. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fire alarms. There's some things that I forgot the names of. When you go off grid, you forget names of things. But anyways, the funny thing is that I cook at a high temperature, and the electric stoves here do not let you cook high
Oh,
temperature.
I
But when
hate electric stoves. I hate electric stoves.
but and when it's off, you don't have if it's turned off, it's off. On an electric stove, you don't know it's off. The other thing is that when I first got here, I'm running through the house, turning off all the alarms. They're going beep, 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 and I'm going, yep, I burned something. Yep, I burned something because I was always burning something. But it was them saying I burnt something. I wasn't burning anything. I was fine with it. But anyways, that was
Take
my
those
funny
damn
thing is
batteries out.
yeah, yeah, I've disconnected all of them in the house because it's in every room. And so I think you can get in trouble for that, but I hope not. But anyways, no, I like I like my home because back there's no fire alarm. And the other thing you were asking about being snowed in for 30, no, like I said, 33 days was my one time and many times. But anyways, is trash. People out there will burn their
Oh,
trash. So you're not bringing home anything you can't burn. And if you can't burn it, you
gosh.
go to the trash. They call it the trash station or I can't remember what they call it now. But anyways, every 2 weeks you take your trash. And here I have trash every day, but they pick it up once a week. Out there, you have one bag for 2 weeks, and that's how much trash you carry out. So you do have to carry your trash out, except for like a lot of people don't. They burn it or smash it or something. That's the big thing. So
Yeah,
anyways, that was
it is a totally different lifestyle, isn't it?
oh yeah. Yeah. And I got to retire early. I mean, because I really told myself by the time I was 50, I was not going to work anymore. I'm going to live my life the way I want to. So that's basically what I've done is pretty well live my life and whatever I wanted to do. If I wanted to go, I mean, I'm still skiing. Not now, but I was skiing up until a year ago. And you just you have the freedom to do whatever you want to do when you're off grid.
I don't know if you noticed what I had put up before, but Cody here had said, "Wow, what a powerful lineup today!" Meaning the different shows we're talking about. Can't wait to hear Ronalda's story. But kindly, the Adventure Show, who, as you know, it pops in here every now and then, which is great to have another show. picking ideas and sharing ideas back and forth is always a big, big, important thing. What advice would Ronalda give to young people chasing purpose? That's a great question. I think it is.
Oh, I think it's a wonderful one. I think you set your mind on your goal. My goal was 50 to retire. I didn't retire till I was 52, but I had a goal that I wanted to be off grid by the time I was 50. And with our political problems that we had in the world, it kind of pushed me to make sure I was off grid by the time I was 52. So, being I think telling people that make a goal early. I mean, like I was telling your granddaughter the other day, at 16, she's 16. Mine was 15. I was volunteering anywhere I could volunteer. I had some other talents that if you see any of my pictures, I used to model. So
Yes.
um,
Yeah, I didn't know
I
how
would
much you wanted to get into that. You were actually very, very active. I've seen pictures and I see why you were a model. No doubt about it.
well,
Just absolutely
I
beautiful.
wasn't a big model. Just when I made big, I mean, I just did it part time because I had a full time city job, and if I wasn't there doing the city, I was out traveling or doing whatever I wanted to do. So, but I was able to um, do what I wanted to do at 15. I had a house by the time I was 17. And by the time I was 20, I had three houses. So I've done whatever I needed to do, and I'm very happy with what I've accomplished in my life.
That's nice to be able to look back at that and say, you know what? All right, I'm still going. I'm still doing my thing. But if I was to leave today, I would be I am proud of and feel good about what I brought out. And that ties into Chris's question here. What was the hardest challenge? So the most important thing for young people is to create and start working to steps, habits, whatever on a goal. And we just heard the results of that lifestyle. What was the on the other side of that? What was the biggest challenge that you faced leaving home at 15? Besides not knowing any, I mean, obviously obvious challenges, but point out some of the bigger ones that you faced in this journey that you're still on, obviously.
Well, at 15, you can't buy anything. You can't buy a car. You can't. So you have to rely on the people that are around you to help you. You can't rent a house. You can't buy a house. I lived in Pennsylvania. You're going to find I've lived a little bit of everywhere, but I think the biggest challenge was not being able to do it on my own because they go, "Where's your parents?" And I go, "Nope, not with a parent. I'm with me." And I think that was the hardest challenge is being able to do what I wanted to do and get the challenge of being told, "Hey, where's your parents?" And but like you said, and I have always said this, my dad said, don't say you can't, figure out how. And that's what I did. I always figured out how to do it. And I always had cars and I always had a house. Um, and by the time I was 25, I had a fantastic house, swimming pool, hot tub, everything. And now you just you just do what you need to do. And so that's where I'm at right now. I know you're still waiting and you're reading, but I all I can say is
I did not realize I
not
was
being
off
able to
stage.
do
I
things
screwed
when you're
up.
15. And I look at 15-year-olds right now and I go, why did anybody let me loose? Why didn't they tie me up to the bed or something? Because I shouldn't have been out at 15. I don't think anybody should be out at 15, but that's what happens.
I was actually didn't realize I was off stage when you were panicking. I was sitting there and I had it perfect. I was talking to you backstage, and as you know, you can't hear yourself. And what I was bringing up Ali's point here, and how do you stay grounded in truth when the world feels so chaotic? And I really love the general theme of what she's saying here, because to you, I mean, this is a definition. This is a question that should be asked to somebody like you who knows a lot about that chaoticness of the world today. And I think we all live in it. How do you stay grounded in truth when that
Okay.
happens? I mean,
If you don't know my lifestyle, but it was very chaotic. I mean, I did a lot of things, and if I wasn't doing something, I'd find something to do. I'd find something to get in trouble with. So right now, peace is what I like. I like the peace, and I think that keeps me grounded, because I'm not into going and getting pizza. I'm not into going to. I never. Oh, macaroni and cheese. The person that I'm living with right now, he wanted macaroni and cheese, so we made macaroni and cheese last night, and it was the worst stuff I ever ate in my whole life. But I think looking at the fast food, and being out in the world is not for me, and that's just me. I like being quiet, and I I told you yesterday, I'm painting, and while I'm painting, I'm in my own little world, thinking, okay, I've got to make oil for this week. I've got to make noodles for this week. I've got to make. And there's a word, gotta. You gotta do. You're constantly thinking of the next season. What are you doing for the next season? Because out there, you have to be thinking about the next season. If you're not thinking about the next season, you'll die. I mean, you'll die out there. You'll die. Here you won't die, but here I
you
enjoy
could die.
thinking.
I
Yep,
mean, you got
yep.
animals and everything else. I mean, we haven't even got into any of that, and honestly, we're going to have to pivot here a little bit because there's also a lot of questions about your work with the youth in Denver. There's a
Mhm.
lot of questions about faith, particularly in here, and how that affected you, and what made you go out and search. But just for a second here, what's the scariest animal confrontation that
um,
you or funniest, either one
I'm laughing
or both?
because I've had bears sitting on my front porch. I've opened one night I heard the chickens doing something outside, and I went, "Oh shoot, we've got a bear." And I opened the door, and right on the front porch, eye to eye, I'm looking at a bear, green eyes. And as
Wow.
soon as I screamed, he ran, and I ran we both went the other opposite way. But bears, I think rattlesnakes and spiders. I mean, like when I first
Oh
was
yeah.
out there. Oh, and then the other thing, living off grid, you always have mice. I don't care. I mean, they're field mice, but you got mice. So
They're
getting
what
a cat,
mice?
mice,
Field?
field mice.
Field? Oh, gotcha. The little one.
Yeah, and yeah, well, you have those, and you have the deer mice, which carry the hunter virus. May
Yeah.
not be
The,
pronouncing
the
that
the
right.
ticks that are
Yeah,
on them, they I
the
mean they're being
fleas.
dangerous. Fleas.
Yeah,
Fleas. Yeah, fleas. It's
yeah,
dangerous for humans.
yeah. So I'm like the snakes, and when I was running, you have mountain lions. I've seen mountain lions.
Wow.
I took my grandson for an ATV ride. I was teaching him to ride, how to ride, and he found two baby bears, and he's going, "Grandma, come here, look at the bears." I'm going, "No, get away from the bears. You don't go near two baby bears."
There's a
And
mama
I
somewhere.
Yep, there's a mama. So I got him out of there. But I think the other thing is having the fun things is I've come across a baby deer that the mama, I don't know where the mama was. And the hunters, oh, Colorado, people come to hunt in Colorado. I have people that come from Florida to Colorado, and we call them the hunters, and they come up once a year, and I make green chili. I know no one knows probably on here except for people from Colorado knows what green chili is, but
I know
I
green
made
chili.
green.
I know green chili. Yeah.
Oh, you know green chili.
Oh
Well, I
yeah.
make green chili, and these people from Florida thought it was soup. And I'm like going, nope, it's not soup. So, anyways, You can get me off on a tantrum. Sorry about that, but no,
No worries, no worries. I love this stuff, and I'm really was really hoping to carry this even longer into the show, but there's just a lot of demand for some of the other, because you've had
oh,
such a
sure.
fascinating background. Let's do a little bit of a pivot here and go on to Clive. What inspired Ronalda you to explore so many different faiths? Because we talk about that, and that you went for a period of time and just traveled around and explored the different faiths. And this goes into yesterday's discussion, where we were talking with a young lady, and she too, similar things. Me too. It's funny, the curious people that explore faiths. But and yesterday was a little bit of more of a discord. In other words, a little bit trying to dive into something that was interesting to me, and people still today aren't openly able to necessarily talk about why their values are their values. I know ours are more aligned than maybe yesterday's show, but let's dive into that. And what do they call it? Double down on yesterday's conversation and get into, first question. And there's two or three about your work in Denver, but there's 4 or 5 that are about religion. So I'm going to skip around still a little bit, but I want to stay on this religion track for a minute here. And first, why did you do it? And then let's get into the differences and some of the things that were the takeaway that we could have investigated yesterday, but we might be able to get a little bit more into today without being offended or whatever.
Oh, I won't offend anybody, because all the different religions that I have studied, there's good and bad things about all religion. And one of the things that have kept me also grounded was that my belief in Christ and God. I was brought up Southern Baptist, but at 15, when you leave home, you decide you want to try other things. I tried Buddhist. I've tried Mormon. Hang on, I've got a dog problem. Hang on. But anyways,
sounds like somebody wants your attention.
Yeah, so I got some treats here. I'm trying to hand them treats while I'm doing this. So, anyways, but
you have 2 dogs, don't you? Don't you have 2 dogs?
I have I have 3.
I knew you had more than one. What do you have?
I have an alpha fincher, and then I have a mutt, and then I have this wasn't what I wanted, but I got it. It's a pit bull. I'm not too thrilled with the pit bull, but he's a good dog. She's a good dog.
Pit bulls. I love them. They have a bad reputation. It depends on the owner. Honestly.
Well, you're right. But I was bit by a pit bull, so I wasn't too thrilled, but she was so cute. I had to have her. So, but when I say pit bull, everybody freaks out. But going back to this question, the thing is that I wanted to know what my faith was. It the true faith? Is there more out there than there has to be something out there, or at least I thought back then there had to be something out there more than what I was studying. And so the more I met people, because of my jobs and because of what I did, I met a variety of different people. And variety means that you will meet Mormons, you'll meet Seventh-day Adventists, you'll meet, everything that, you probably can ask me and I can tell you, I probably went and investigated and understood it. But the biggest thing is I lived as a Muslim for 5 years. I was covered from head to toe. And
so you're in the radical side, so to speak. The burqa, right? The burqa
but I was in the United States. I was not in Morocco. No. But I did develop and understand what the Quran is. I've read the Quran, and I always tell everybody, because people understand it, they read from back to front. Okay.
Why is that? I tried to get that simple question. And is it is it a,
No,
is it a part of
there's
the
nothing.
religion, or is it
No,
just
no, 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 no. They also they read from back to front. We
right?
are the strange ones. We're the strange ones. We're the ones that read from front to back, at least in their view. And so, anyways, and you came across something else that I wanted to make a comment about yesterday is that they get up and they go to school like at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they stop at like 10 o'clock, and then they have a rest or they go home and do whatever they need to do, and then they go back again at 3 o'clock, and they study until like 7 o'clock. So and that's like the Mexican culture too. There's so
Same with the Italian culture. They do that too, because I spent a lot of time there and in business. They'll work early in the morning, and then they'll have that like you said, the siesta is what the Mexican culture calls it, and then goes back, and they'll have coffee, and I'm like, I can't drink coffee, after 4 o'clock, but then they go back at like 7 and go till
right,
10:30 or whatever, and or
right.
later, whatever it is, I don't know. But that's there's so many differences within the world, and cultural things. Oops, I want to skip. By the way, Chris, thank you for that. That question there. I wanted to get back to this one because it's about how does it affect the great middle class, and this is an interesting point to bring. Is it Branson? Hold on. Sorry about this. I
It looks
had
like
it open.
Branson Hill.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that's not the one. That's not the one. It's the wrong one
okay.
though. I want to skip down here. Uh, damn it. Dang it. It was a really good question. Basically, here it is. How does faith play a role in rebuilding the middle class? So right now you're talking about different cultures and different ways that are approached in different religions. I do want to also get back and stay in that Quran discussion because it's very timely right now. There's unfortunately most wars. I think most wars throughout all time, most of them were brought to war because of religion. And right now there's a great fight building between Christians and Muslims all over the world, and there's a big pushback, and there's already a big development within communities from Muslims, and now all of a sudden there's this friction, and justifiably, I believe. But will that lead to war? And how does the faith play? So this is a kind of not a quirky question, but it's got to be an answer that's not just, oh, you have your faith and you're a better person, so forth and so on, because it's more complex than that. In that you said it earlier, and you were kind of leaning into it, and if I'm right, which I believe where you're going is that there's a God. There always has been a God, and every religion says the same thing. The same God. It's the same God across all religions, even Buddhism, even some of the fourth and fifth religions. You have the major ones, right? Let's call them Christianity, Judaism, Muslim, Buddha is it's not a religion, but it is a religion. It's more of a way of life. But they even all talk about heaven. They all talk about hells. And Buddhism is 12 levels of heaven, and they have all these different things, all about the same things. Do you get that from what you've studied,
Okay.
your exposure? What is that?
All religions have a base of goodness. Okay. There's even the Muslims have a base of goodness. It's how if it's like that is what will rebuild the world is the goodness in it, like you said earlier. But it's like the Bible, and I've said this over and over again. You can call yourself a Christian, But do you know what the Bible says? Do you understand the Bible? Have you read the Bible?
Very few.
Because there's some things that in the Bible you may not agree with, but it's in the Bible. But if you haven't read the Bible, you won't know it. It's like the Quran. I was in, not just in my house as a Muslim, I was involved with the community as a Muslim. And the deal with that was, hang on for a second, I'm trying to make sure no one growls here. Anyways, I read it and I understood the parts of it, and and being a Muslim, you grew up and you probably have not read the Quran, like most people have not read the Bible through and through. If you read the Quran, you're going to find that there are parts of it that says you must kill the infidel. And like yesterday, she had every chance to be able to tell you, and I'm not picking on her, I'm just saying we have every chance to understand it ourselves by reading it ourselves to understand where it comes from. And I will always go back to Christianity. I don't think I'll ever turn away from it. I've read and understood every religion. I think there's like 12 that I've been through, and each one still brings me back to believing how I was raised. And I believe and it's basically that we pray. I pray every day. I pray 3 times a day. I talk to the Lord on an ongoing basis all day. I think that has a lot to do with keeping me safe. Like he asked, what do you do it when you were 15? I believed the Lord was going to protect me, and he did. So I believe rebuilding the middle class, you've got to have faith. If it's not faith in Christianity, faith in something, but not in the radical part of the Muslims, but they do. The ladies that I was talking to, they believe in peace. They call themselves peaceful people. And I said, have you read the Quran? Have you seen this? And when I pointed it out to them, they were shocked that was in the Quran. So if you don't know something, investigate. Like my dad said, if you don't know how to do something, figure it out. So
Yeah.
that's my deal on the rebuilding of the middle class.
And just adding on to that, you made a comment a little bit earlier in that part of the conversation, this part of the conversation, and you had said, like most Christians, most Islamist, what would that be? So there's Christians. What are
Muslims,
Islamists? Muslim.
Muslims that are
Most
yeah,
Yeah,
Muslims who don't
most
follow Islam.
Muslims don't read the Quran, and that was kind of pointed out yesterday. Now that I'm connecting 2 dots, she didn't ask me if I had read and knew the Quran. She asked me if I've gone to mosques and seen the community, what they do there, which I have a ton of times. That's like a Christian going to church but not reading the Bible, and
Right,
going to church every Sunday and getting that message, which is most people, most Christians and most Muslims. And then so she asked if I'd been to mosque, which I have in Egypt, and all over the Middle East. I've done a lot of Turkey. I spent some time in
right,
Turkey, and
right,
that was fascinating. The prayer, the midday prayer when it comes over the speakers.
right.
But she didn't ask me if I read the Quran. She asked me if I'd been to mosque, just like a Christian would say, have you been to church? Not
Right,
have you read the Bible, right? Because there's a big
right.
difference in
Yeah.
how your beliefs develop. So Ariel, thank you very much for this question. And yeah, you've got to have, and I love what she says here. How does faith? So, and I think that's an important word, because faith is faith. It's a belief in something bigger than yourself. I relay it kind of like I said yesterday. I relay it to like at AA, where not everybody quote unquote believes in God, but in that program, you have to have a belief in something higher than yourself, something that you can lean into. And that, Ariel, is Ronalda, I think, where you're going there. And that
Right.
you've got to have that faith, because that's what you can turn to. If you have nobody else, or even if you have other people, to be able to turn and lay that in something else's hands that's bigger than yourself, taking that mental out of it, and then was it you that we were talking about? No, yesterday she said a very good point. She said praying is talking to God, and then when you meditate, that's listening to God. I thought that was beautiful, right?
Right.
So faith has a big role in rebuilding the middle class, and I think that's part of the problem we have had, is our faith has been waning over decades. It's really gotten smaller. Let me see what there's a number of others here I want to, and I didn't want to do it this way, but I'm getting too into this conversation. Chris Hanna, what was the hard? Okay, let's go. I don't want to go to Denver yet, though. That's the hard part when we do this. Okay, so here we go. What's the biggest takeaway from this week's Faith and Freedom Talks? So in the write-up, you notice I put that in there, that we're talking about, throughout the week. And you've been on every show. I think you've been, at least this week, every show. I think you've missed one or two here or there. But what do you tell Antonio? What's the biggest takeaway that you have? And then I'll build on the back end of that with this week's Faith and Freedom Talks.
Boy, I'm trying to figure this. I'm trying to figure out her question, but I believe is that goodness. I think the takeaway is you always, whatever faith you have, there should be something good out of it. And I guess that would be me. My thought is that having something that you can pay it forward. How about that? Maybe that's what I want to say, is make sure you're paying whatever you do in life, that you pay it forward. And I always believe, and maybe that's why I've always been protected, is that I always paid whatever I've had from me, I've always paid it forward. And I think that's what my takeaway is.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Let's go back to Branson now. And we're going to kind of, and I'd like you to you spent 26 years doing this. Let's talk about your life in Denver. So we've gone from Colorado back to the East Coast there. You're in South, did you say South Carolina, right?
I've been in South Carolina. Yes.
South Carolina. And that surprised me when you said it's more Mexican. I didn't imagine that. As you said, the food is different here. There's a lot of Mexican food.
No. In Colorado, it's Mexican food. The food here, I cannot find half of my staples that I have in Colorado. So I'm learning to adjust and learning new ways of cooking. I'm still cooking from scratch, but it's not the food that I would be cooking in Colorado.
It's Southern, right? I mean, it's definite Southern style food, right?
Yeah.
I've been out there.
Yeah. No. You know what?
Like gravy
the other day
and fried foods, a lot of that, pickles, fried pickles.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I don't have a problem with that. My biggest problem was that I had Mexican food the other day and they put gravy on it. I'm like going, you put, I'm going.
Oh my God, that's so South Carolina. Oh my God, that's so funny.
And I told them, I said, "Do you want me to show you how to make Mexican food?" I actually talked to the cook. I said, "I know how to make green chili," and they didn't have any idea. I said, "What do you mean? You're Mexican. You don't know what green chili is?" And they said they wouldn't eat it out here. And I said, "Well, I guess I'm not going to eat green chili at your place anyway soon." So, anyways. But going to this question, how did I work? How I was working with youth in Denver? I work with the Bloods and the Crips, and I worked in downtown Denver. I actually was working with the kids that we wanted off the street, and they and the thing was is that even though they were gang members, their families were very involved with those kids. And you'd think they would be the opposite, but it's not. The parents would come, and if as long as I was at the rec center, they'd let their kids come down and be at the rec center. If I wasn't at the rec center, they wouldn't let their kids come. But I think the biggest thing is now what I gave them experience. I took them skiing, snow skiing. Um, I took them out to eat to restaurants that were really nice restaurants. And I've actually got online with some of them from the past, and they said we're still camping. And if I wouldn't have taken them camping when they were kids, they wouldn't have camped when they grew up. So I took them fishing. I mean, things that we normally do when we were growing up, they didn't know how to do or wouldn't have had the exposure. And working in parks and recreation, which is a big deal in Denver, um, it it brought out their information of what they can do, and I think it made them a better person, and they have children now, and those children are going fishing, and those children are going skiing, things that we wouldn't have, they would have never had back then. They have now. So I think that was the biggest thing is the challenge, and I think it was just a really wonderful time. The kids, they looked at me as another parent.
Now, how did that affect you? I mean, because you lived that life day in and day out. That was your work. That was your passion as well, obviously. And we haven't even got into the different parks and rec programs you built up while you were there. But let's stay here before we go there, and then we can kind of start to wind down and wrap her up in a nice, neat little bow. But how did that experience working with them, seeing that, and then to build off of that, what you just said, getting comments back in how the generations are literally changing because of the experiences you put in their lives when they were kids. How did that affect you? Your outlook?
Well, when going to a gang center where I had never been, they told me what it was, and I'm shaking like a leaf. And they had controls of the rec centers back then. The gang members had control because you'd ask them for their membership ID, and instead of them showing you their ID, they'd show you their gun or they'd show you their knife and say, "This is my pass." And I'm going, "Okay, go ahead, go ahead." And so I think I was stupid in the way of I called the police and I said, "I've got kids here with guns and knives." And I didn't know that they had not walkie talkies. What are they called where they can scan and hear the phone calls? Well, they
Yeah.
heard me. And my nice little new car had four flat tires when I'm lucky that I had my life by the time I left there because I didn't realize how bad of an area that I was in. I was in seriously, we had gang fights at the rec center where I'm a little tiny thing back then, and I had a co-member, not a co-member, a co-worker that he was trying to break up the fight, and he couldn't do it, so I jumped on someone's back trying to get him to stop, and they just picked me up and put me to the side. So, but now, if you go, the gang members that were then most of them got put away. I mean, the bad gang members, they got put, when I mean put away, I mean like went for a long jail sentence. And when they got out, they didn't, their establishment wasn't there anymore. So Denver did a good job in getting them off the street. And now when you go to the rec centers now, at least the last time I was there, they're really nice. You don't have to worry about the gang kids, and you don't have to worry about being oh, that they're coming in with their guns or knives. Well, now they have, what do you call it? When you go through the thing, if you have any metal on you, it goes beep, beep, beep.
Metal detector. Yep.
Yeah.
Really,
So
they
anyway,
have to have those at rec centers, huh?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And so,
Well, then again, what Antifa's running Denver right now, isn't it?
no, it's
They have a
the,
whole nother thing going on.
no, it's the, I'm trying to think what gang, it's not from this country. I'm trying to think what and it's not a T, because that's, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
you
but
mean
that's George,
Venezuela?
that's, yeah, yeah.
Not 13,
I know
Caliganda
it.
or something like that. Yeah, I don't remember their names, but they're
I,
the, oh, that's right. That's right. They were
yeah,
taking over
but
apartment
they're in,
buildings, weren't they?
but yeah, they're in Aurora. They're not in
Right.
Aurora is always been a gang area, and I probably going to you may get in trouble for me saying that, but I didn't live there. I lived on the other side of town, but I did have a house in Aurora for a while before it got to be in a gang member area.
Wow.
But it's still I think the biggest thing is that things are better in the rec centers right now there. I don't know how much the political part of it is because they're still regulating everything out the door. I mean, you're regulated from the time you breathe. I mean, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, you know what? This is we're an hour and 15 minutes in, and we've still got 330 people on the show. And man, this has been phenomenal. This has been everything I had hoped for and more. I'm gonna you have a last comment or kind of a wind up advice, pulling the different subjects together. And remember, we're talking about making those life choices. I talk about it, making those life choices that may be different from the past. You know, for instance, the freedom to be able to relocate yourself out to Mangum, Oklahoma, and after never being always being a big city boy. Um, always had thoughts and wants to do it, but just never thought it would be reasonable until life circumstances said, you know what, here's a window, go fricking do it. And so, this show was a reason to make that move, because now I'm in the middle, the great middle of America, the great middle class, right? And so, and then adding to that is this experience of living, in a very small community that, has only got a couple thousand people in it, where I'm used to, living in LA and Orange County and, Chicago and on and on and on, Virginia, in large populated areas. Your different choices have led you as well all over the world, and making these changes. What kind of a last word would you like to leave with people all across, the religious aspects, the grounding and believing in yourself and going out and going after things that you like, and then of course your work in Denver and that whole scenario, the religious aspects of what we've talked about. How do you want to wrap up the show for you?
I want to wrap it up with, first of all, you were looking for greener grass. You found your green grass. You know what? You can only look at the grass and say, is it greener over there? And sometimes you jump over the fence, like I jumped over the fence to South Carolina, and I found a mud puddle. So I want to go back to where I was. Don't jump out of the frying pan into the fire,
Okay.
and realize that, you might want something better, but but what you had was probably the best thing you had in the first place. So don't always, I mean, you can investigate, but only investigate long enough that you can get back to where you were. Because right now I'm having a hard time getting back to where I am because of my stem cell doctor, and we can go into stem cells some other time. But I think the biggest thing is don't jump out of the frying pan into the fire, because you can't always go back. And my place is still there. Everything's ready for me to come back whenever I'm ready to go back. I just can't get back there. And that's my endings.
That's beautiful, man. What a way! What a way! What a great show, and what great advice. I expected to have, because I've known you for so long. I expected to have a great conversation today. This went far past, and also made me understand how much still there is to learn about you, and what you've been through, and what you've done, and what you how your life has been changed. So I'll hang out in the green room. Don't eat any of the green colored chocolate covered peanuts in there. That's the only thing you can eat in there. You can have anything else.
I already did it. I already did.
I'm going to get in trouble. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right.
Okay.
I'll see you in a little bit. I'll see you on the other side.
Okay.
All right. So, as promised, folks, that was awesome. I do want to just kind of touch back on a couple of things. This is now our standing Friday coffee and tea time, where we'll have different subjects. Last minute I changed it. I talked to Ronalda yesterday afternoon, said, hey, would you be interested in chatting about this? Because I got my first taste of a little bit of discourse and getting into some subjects that are a little more they have a little bit more they're in the news, and they're a little bit more touchy, and I don't want to run away from hard topics, and I want to find people that help us in those topics. In other words, people that are open-minded and come into a conversation like that's curious. And that has to be the approach, and otherwise it can never end up good. So we're going to start talking about religion and spirituality and scripture, and the hidden truths and the real healing. And I think we got a little touch of that today. On Tuesday, my son and I, we had our first inaugural show on this Tuesday, the 14th, and we're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about micro farming techniques, but most of it's going to be about the world, the business lane that we live in on this show, where we talk about business, we talk about crypto, we talk about blockchain, we talk about AI and automation, and what's the difference in those same things that are differently used differently. We talk about the partnership in action on Monday. That's with Simon, and on Mondays it's all dedicated to the educational structure and where we're going on that side of it. Whereas on Saturday, so tomorrow, we're going to talk a lot about, or we're going to focus on, giving kids, teens their voice, and what the programs that we have going, and the developments we have that are going to be seen soon. And then, of course, yesterday we had a show on. She's a business consultant, and very, very active, very successful. And she also is a third generation tarot reader. And by the way, Ronalda, that's a tarot card reader. And that's another subject we can chat about on another day as well, because she's a reader. And there's just so much fascination that I've discovered in this world, just by having this show and just by having conversations with people. And I highly recommend doing that. It's beneficial in so many different ways. It's made me a different person. It's affected my life in all positive ways. And most of all, I'm meeting people that I would have never met any other way, and learning things I would have never been exposed to. And being a curious person, this is kind of like becoming an addiction for me, because it what's the old saying? Curiosity killed the cat. Satisfaction brought him back. I am your host of Insights and Straight Talk. This is my name is Rodd Duff. Please subscribe. We're working to get to 10,000 subscribers by November, in November. And we're just over 1,000 away. So please tell all your friends. Even my best friend, I've got to start hammering on him because he doesn't. Joe Heap, I was talking about earlier, he hasn't even thought about subscribing, but we're going to change that. So tell all your friends, man. I really want to make a push in getting to that 10,000 subscriber list number, and all the other social medias are growing exponentially right along with the growth of this show. So we're on a mission, and we're here to make this all go right. I'm Rodd Duff. I'm your host, and I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.